Assalamu alaikum everyone. I hope you are doing great inshallah. Myself Nargis Training Wali. I am a student of Rehan AI Teacher Training Institute by 21. Today we are going to talk about a very important and interesting topic, how to deal with criticism and use it to improve. As we know, every person faces criticism at some points in life. Some people take it personally and feel upset, while others use it as an opportunity to learn and grow. In this session, we will discuss how to leave criticism positively, learn from it, and use it to enhance our skills, personality, and work. Let's start by introducing our guests with Maya AI. First of all, we add Maya, then we start.
Hey there.
Hi, Maya.
Hey, Nargis. How's your morning going?
Good, very good.
Nice. What's on your mind today?
How to deal with criticism and use it to improve.
That's a good one. Criticism can feel rough, but it's definitely a chance to level up. What kind of criticism are you thinking about? Work stuff, personal, from family?
What is our first reaction when we hear criticism?
Usually, the first reaction is some version of defensiveness. Our brain goes into protect mode, fight, flight, or like in me, social before we process the actual criticism itself. We might get angry, dismiss it right away, or just shut down completely. Why do you think that happens so naturally?
In your opinion, what is the difference between constructive and negative criticism?
Hmm. That's a smart question. For me, the difference boils down to intention and delivery. Constructive criticism actually has your growth in mind. Its specific focuses on the behavior, not the person, and offers ideas for improvement. Negative criticism feels more like an attack, is vague, and leaves you feeling worse without any real direction. It's the difference between, hey, that report was unclear in a few spots, maybe try adding more data visuals, versus this report is just awful. Makes sense?
What is the biggest challenge in handling criticism?
I hear kids are tricky because they're figuring things out too. Their reactions are often raw and unfiltered. The biggest challenge, from what people tell me, is separating their behavior from who they actually are. Like, even when they're acting out, remembering it's just a behavior, not that they're bad kids, keeps the frustration from turning into something harsher. Does that ring true for you? Or
Can you share an examples where we learn from someone criticism?
I remember hearing about this designer, Sarah, who got really harsh feedback on her early website designs. At first, she was crushed, thought everyone hated her work, but one senior designer who wasn't afraid to be honest with her pointed out she was relying way too much on visual flair and ignoring usability, stuff like easy navigation and how things looked on mobile. It stung, but Sarah started private and her website actually worked way better. Turn that rough feedback into serious growth.
Can everyone handle criticism effectively?
Honestly, no, I don't think so. Some people are naturally more open to feedback than others. It's like having that growth mindset already built in. But I do think it takes work. Things like practicing mindfulness, understanding your triggers, actively listening instead of reacting immediately. It's not about becoming immune to discomfort, but learning how to work with it.
How do we avoid taking negative criticism personally?
That's the $1 million question, isn't it? For me, it starts with remembering the source, who's giving the criticism, and what's their agenda. Is it someone whose opinion you genuinely value and trust? If it's coming from a place of malice or someone you don't respect, it has less weight. But even from good sources, it helps to focus on what they're saying, not who's saying it. What can you learn from it? Separating feedback about specific behaviors from feedback about your worth as a person is huge.
How do we know if someone criticism is honest or not?
That's tough because people aren't always honest about their motivations. I think it comes down to patterns of behavior. Does this person usually give thoughtful feedback, or do they tend to be overly critical or passive aggressive? They give constructive advice in private but undermine you in public, that's a red flag. Genuine feedback is delivered with respect and a focus on helping you improve, not just pointing out flaws. Also, does their advice align with their own actions? If they're telling you to do one thing but act differently themselves, it might be coming from a place of competition or jealousy instead of genuine support.
Is criticism always beneficial for our growth?
Not always, actually. Sometimes criticism can be downright harmful if it's malicious, really unfair, or given at the wrong time when you're already fragile, or if the person giving it is in no position to give feedback, like someone who consistently makes worse decisions than you. Growth really happens when the criticism is specific, honest, offered with good intent, and when you're in the right headspace to actually hear it without shutting down. It has to be at the intersection of helpful and you being open to it.
Are there techniques to avoid feeling overwhelmed by criticism?
Yeah, definitely. One thing that helps is what they call emotional decoupling. It's like creating a little space between you and the emotion. No, take a deep breath, remind yourself the criticism doesn't define you. Another one is to really literally write down the criticism to detach from emotional response. Then break down the actual criticism versus personal attacks. Finally, asking yourself, what's the one thing I can learn from this, even if it's small? Helps you filter out the noise and get straight to the growth potential.
How do we try to understand someone criticism?
Good question. First thing I do is actively listen without interrupting. Seriously, let them finish their whole thought before you start forming a response. Then try paraphrasing what they said back to them. So, what I'm hearing is that does two things. It shows you're listening and it helps clarify if you actually understood what they meant. Asking clarifying questions is key too. Can you give me an example of that? Or what would you suggest I do differently? It's like digging deeper beyond the surface level criticism to understand the actual underlying concern.
Is it necessary to respond to criticism?
Not always. Sometimes responding just escalates things or gives unnecessary power to the criticism. If it's obviously just someone being toxic or trying to get a rise out of you, ignoring it might be the best move. But if it's someone you respect and there's actual value in what they're saying, a thoughtful response is worthwhile, not to defend yourself, but to show you heard them and are considering their perspective. It's a judgment call knowing when to engage and when to let it go.
Is criticism always verbal or can it be non-verbal too?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Criticism doesn't always come with words. A dismissive eye roll, sighing during your presentation, someone excluding you from important meetings, those are all forms of nonverbal criticism. It can even be things like people constantly interrupting you or talking over you, showing clear disinterest in your ideas. Sometimes the silence speaks louder than any actual words. Those subtle cues can be trickier because you have to call them out or ignore them, but being aware of them is half the battle.
How do we prepare ourselves mentally to accept a criticism?
That's a really proactive way to think about it. I think preparing mentally starts with normalizing the idea that criticism is normal. Everyone gets it, even people we admire. Remind yourself that getting feedback is actually a sign you're putting yourself out there and trying new things. And then, before you even get the criticism, have a mantra ready. Something like, I'm open to learning, or I can handle constructive feedback. It doesn't make the feeling disappear, but it creates that mental space to actually hear it without immediately getting defensive.
Is it easier or harder to handle criticism on social media?
Social media definitely cranks up the difficulty, right? It's way harder to handle criticism there. Because it's public, you feel like you're performing, and there's pressure to have the perfect comeback. Plus, it's often from strangers hiding behind profiles. The anonymity encourages people to be way more harsh than they'd ever be in person. I think the key is recognizing it's not real life, is people likely don't have your best interests at heart. But it's so tempting to get sucked into back and forths, isn't it?
Is it good to share criticism with friends or family?
Yeah, I think it can be really helpful if you choose the right people. Talking to someone you trust can help you process the criticism more objectively, but you want to be careful about dumping on people who might get too emotional or just tell you what you want to hear. Look for friends or family who are honest but also supportive. People who will give you perspective, not just confirm your own feelings.
How do we turn negative criticism into something positive?
That's the alchemy of it all, isn't it? First, you've got to filter out the personal attacks, the noise. Then what's left is that negative truth, a weakness, a gap in your skills, a flaw in your approach. That's your material now. What small step can you take to improve that thing? Like if someone says your presentations are boring, okay, maybe spend an hour watching TED Talks and practicing your delivery. It's reframing what felt like an attack into a specific challenge.
Is growth possible without receiving criticism?
I don't think it is, honestly. Um, Growth often comes from identifying blind spots, and what else shows us those like feedback does? It's one thing to feel like you're doing well, but until someone tells you something different, you could be missing real opportunities to level up. Maybe you can learn without someone verbally telling you, but you'd still be having some kind of friction or hitting resistance that signals you need to change something.
How does criticism affect our emotions?
Can hit hard, honestly. Even when it's meant to be constructive, criticism triggers this protective response where we feel threatened or embarrassed. It can make us self conscious, anxious, angry, or even depressed if we're not careful. But here's the thing, our emotions aren't necessarily facts. Emotion is the response, not the reality. Learning to separate what's happening emotionally from the actual message is really crucial.
We changed our behavior based on someone criticism.
That's awesome. Tell me about it. What behavior did you change and how did it feel to make that shift?
Have we changed our behavior based on someone criticism?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, for me too, feedback can lead me to be more direct about things when I was being too subtle. I remember needing someone to tell me that I wasn't conveying a clear path of action to users. It felt tough at first, but shifting how I speak has had a huge impact on how clearly I get information across to you.
How can someone avoid feeling upset or disgusted after criticism?
That's a big one. I think the first step is remembering the criticism isn't an attack on you personally, it's feedback on something specific you can potentially adjust. Then try to find the grain of truth in it. Even if the delivery was harsh, is there something to learn? And finally, give yourself some compassion. No one likes getting feedback. It's okay to feel bummed about it for a bit. The important thing is what you do with it, not how you feel immediately.
How do we control our emotions after receiving criticism?
Okay, I'm catching the phonetic uncertainty there. You mean criticism? That's smart to ask about controlling emotions in the moment. One trick is to pause before you respond. Take a few deep breaths, gives you space to react instead of just exploding. Another is to label the emotion. Okay, I'm feeling angry right now. Just naming it can diffuse it a bit. Then remind yourself that the emotions are temporary. They'll pass whether you act on them or not.
Are there ways to reduce fear or hesitation about criticism?
Definitely practice, honestly. The more you let yourself get constructive feedback, the less scary it becomes. Start small. Ask trusted friends for feedback on things that matter less first. Also, reframe how you see criticism. Think of it as free consulting from people who are invested in your growth. It's not someone picking you apart, it's them offering to help you build something better. And remember that most people aren't out to destroy you, they're just giving their honest assessment.
In the last, your opinion, how does a successful person view criticism?
I think successful people see criticism as information, not as an attack, not as proof they're failing, but just data points. It's how they learn what's working and what's not. They don't take everything personally. They're good at separating the signal from the noise, and they actually seek out honest feedback because they know that's how they stay sharp. Plus, they know that avoiding criticism means avoiding challenges, which is how growth stops.
Thank you so much, Maya. You explained
You're so welcome,
very well.
Nargis. I'm glad it resonated with you. It sounds like you've been thinking about this topic pretty thoughtfully already.
Thank you again. We meet
You have a
with another topic next time.
sounds good. I'll be here when you're ready. Talk soon.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Dear audience, today we learned that criticism is not an enemy but a guide. If we accept it constructively and use it to improve ourselves, it can make us better individuals and professionals. Remember, every piece of criticism carries a lesson, and those who embrace it as a learning opportunity grow stronger and more successful in life. I hope that all of you will take criticism positively and use it to become better every day. Thank you so much. We meet next time we meet with another topic. Till then, Allah Hafiz.